Chapter 68, the Jubilee, Part 2. Leviticus 25, 18 to 24. Wherefore ye shall do my statutes, and keep my judgments, and do them, and ye shall dwell in the land in safety. And the land shall yield her fruit, and ye shall eat your fill, and dwell therein in safety. And if ye shall say, What shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we will not sow nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. And ye shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until our fruits come in, ye shall eat of the old store. The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And in all the land of your possession ye shall grant a redemption for the land. Leviticus 25, 18 to 24. The laws of Jubilee are also called the laws of release or the laws of liberty. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. Verse 10. In Honeycutt's words, all of creation is the Lord's, and to set creation free is to acknowledge that sanctity. So God's continuing call is, free the land, free the poor, free all who are encumbered. Freedom acknowledges that all creation is sacred, belonging not to persons, but to the Lord. In the biblical perspective, rural land is not a commodity to be sold for a profit, but a trust from God to the family. The family here means also the generations yet to come, so that the trustee possessor of the land holds it under God for future generations. A future-oriented tenure was thus a result. At the same time, the past trustees and their work to build up the family's land was a very present fact. Biblical faith is land-oriented. The earth was cursed for man's sake at the fall, Genesis 3:17, and it is to be blessed at the new creation of all things, Romans 8:18 to 25. It is noteworthy that both verses 18 and 19 stress the fact of our safety when we are faithful to the Lord. Bush said concerning the Hebrew word Labetah, in confident safety, the Hebrew word expresses both the boldness and confidence with which men that fear and obey God trust in Him, and the safety and security which they feel in His protection in times of doubt or danger. In verses 18 to 22, there are 2 major promises. The first, as already noted, is safety. The land and people will live in security and peace if they obey God and observe this law. The Sabbath and Jubilee years quite obviously require faith and obedience. To go without planting for 1 year in Sabbath years and 2 in the Jubilee meant living 2 and 3 years on old stored food on faith, because another season would pass before a harvest. However, second, God promises a blessing of very great plenty for all who are obedient. He commands His blessing on all who are commanded, on all who obey Him in faith. This is a special and providential blessing. Let us turn again to the fact that these are laws of release. The Jubilee is the great Sabbath, and the Sabbaths are all a rest and release. John Newton's hymn, Safely Through Another Week God Has Brought Us on Our Way, 1774, says, From all worldly cares set free, may we rest this day in Thee. We need to recognize the kinds of meaning set forth concerning the Sabbath doctrine: days, years, and Jubilee, safety, release, plenty, rest, and more, all in faithfulness to the Lord. The land, too, has a release. First, the land has a release from man. We are not to prune or cultivate the land and its vines and trees in the sabbatical years, because the earth is the Lord's. Psalm 24:1. We must obey God's law and give the land its periodic release. This release applies to every person and sphere. In the Ten Commandments, we are told the rest applies to our families, workers, and animals. Exodus 20:8-11. In no sphere, including our own lives, do we have unrestricted power or jurisdiction. The law concerning menstruation gives a like immunity to women. Leviticus 18:19, 20:18, etc. The earth is the Lord's, and so are we. Second, not only are we the Lord's property, as is the land, but the harvests too are his possession. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world, and they that dwell therein. Psalm 24:1. The tithe, the offering of the first fruits, the Sabbaths, gleaning, and more witness to God's ownership of the products of the earth, whether agricultural, mineral, or manufactured. Third, God's ownership must be acknowledged by more than verbal statements, such as merely theological affirmation. God's ownership must be confessed not only by the observances of the land's release, but also by our obedience to the whole law of God. One of the evils of the modern church is the substitution of a verbal affirmation for a life of faithfulness. This is strongly condemned in Scripture. Wherefore the Lord said, Forasmuch as this people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips do honour me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. Therefore, behold, I will proceed to do a marvellous work among this people, even a marvellous work and a wonder, for the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hid. Isaiah 29:13 and 14. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoureth me with their lips, but their hearts is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Matthew 15:7-9. Symptomatic of this waywardness is the fact that today the Sabbath is a church observance, not the life of release in the Lord for the land and the people. Fourth, God's requirement for the land and his people is holiness. God's blunt demand is, Ye shall not pollute the land, defile not therefore the land. Numbers 35, 33, and 34. In many laws, as in Leviticus 18:24-30 and 20:22-26, God declares plainly that the land itself will vomit out a disobedient and faithless people. What happened to the Canaanites, the Israelites, and many other peoples will happen to us and to all who defile the land. The earth is under a curse because of man's sin, Genesis 3:17, and the earth itself takes vengeance upon men and nations who continue the defilement of God's holy creation. We are plainly told in Leviticus 25:23, The land shall not be sold forever, or in perpetuity, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me. This is why, as Davies pointed out, it is impossible to discover any Israelite idea of the state. The state means governments by man, whereas in God's law, all areas of government are under him and his law. History is the story of God's dispossession of false tenets and his insistence on the holiness of the land, which must have a holy people. Because the earth is the Lord's, man must believe and obey God's terms of tenancy, his law, or else be dispossessed, or at the very least cursed. The premise of the Great Commission is that all nations must be discipled because it is God's earth they dwell in, Matthew 28:20. Commentators are usually skeptical about the Jubilee laws and question whether they were ever observed. Honeycutt correctly states, Leviticus speaks to so few today because so few believe that God can come to them through and yet beyond the words of another culture and time. To limit the validity of Leviticus to ancient Israel is to sin. It means positing an evolving God who adapts himself to an evolving people. Such questions about the validity of God's law for today require no small arrogance on the part of men. A better approach is found in Dummelo. The year of Jubilee was thus, as it were, the new birth of the whole nation, when property was redistributed, and the inequalities arising in the previous period were removed. It was a remarkable social law, putting checks upon ambition and covetousness, preventing the acquisition of huge estates, and adjusting the distribution of wealth in the various classes of the community. The incidents of Ruth, chapter 4, and of Naboth, 1 Kings 21, show that the law against the alienation of land was in force in early times, compare Jeremiah 32:6 following. That it was not unnecessary in later times appears from such passages as Isaiah 5:8, Micah 2:2. All the same, the basic emphasis is not economic, but theonomic. The concern is holiness, not society's goals. We must minister to men because God requires it for his kingdom, not because men see it as a humanistic cause. The purpose is a holy community, not the kingdom of man. Hence, we are told by Paul and the Apostolic Fellowship, Therefore lift up the hands which hang down, and the feeble knees, and make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it rather be healed. Follow peace with all men, and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Hebrews 12:12-14.